Hello there, beautiful sisters. I'm Bekah, and welcome to the Red Tent Podcast. I'm bringing it back, baby. I uploaded 4 episodes of this podcast a couple of years ago onto Spotify. You can find it on Spotify. It's just called The Red Tent. And then I took a long hiatus, but I'm so passionate about this stuff. I wanted to bring it back, and I wanted to bring it back in YouTube form as well. But today we're talking about 5 reasons to pay attention to your period, or as I like to call it, your bleed, your cycle, etc. Period is not my favorite term, but it's the one that's most widely used. So, let's talk about it. And the reason why I'm so passionate about this is because it's something that I've been paying really close attention to for the last, well, sometimes more close attention than others, okay? We're human, we go through phases, and, sometimes I've paid more attention to it and really charted my cycle and really paid attention to different symptoms and tracking and things like that, and other times it's more loosely, and it has still served me really well, even when I'm just charting just a few things or just following my cycle loosely. It still really helps me to understand myself, to understand where I'm at hormonally, which is one of the things that we're going to get into. But yeah, I just think our bodies are so fascinating, and our cycle is our 5th vital sign as women. And so it tells us a lot of things that can be going on in our body, but not only in our bodies, but also in our lives and in our emotions. And yeah, so let's dive right in. Reason number 1, there are 5 reasons, by the way. So reason number 1 is it tells you when you're fertile. So if you pay attention to your cycle, you'll know when your fertile window is, which, key thing here, it's not all the time. We're not fertile all the time. There's a lot of fear mongering about, just if you have sex, you're going to get pregnant. No, not the case all the time. If you have sex a certain time of your cycle in a certain way, you could very well get pregnant, but it's not all the time. Maximum of 5 days for the fertile window. Can be stretched to 10 days because sperm can live in the body for up to 5 days. So let's say you have sex, and then the sperm lives in, your nice cozy bed of uterine tissue. And then later is when your fertile window starts, like 5 days later. Could stretch up to 10 days, but really your fertile window isn't all the time. And if you want to learn more about that, then I would highly recommend looking into fertility awareness, either here on YouTube or on Spotify, or finding an instructor can be really helpful. But I find that there's so much information available here on the internet that has just guided me in a lot of directions that have helped me learn from other women, either by their own experience or their own expertise, so it's just super helpful. Such a great resource. But yeah, we're fertile typically for about 3 to 5 days of the cycle, and I don't have to explain why that's important to know. Number 2, it helps to predict when your bleeding phase will be. So we've all had it happen where all of a sudden we're bleeding and we're like, wait a minute, what just happened? I didn't know that was coming at this time. If we're charting our cycle, then it's a lot easier to know when our next bleeding phase will be. Which, by the way, I do like to share where I'm at in my cycle in these episodes. So today, I'm on day 3 of my cycle. So my bleed started 3 days ago. And this past cycle that I had was an anovulatory cycle, which just means that I did not ovulate this past cycle. And so it was a little bit harder to predict when I was going to bleed. And the reason that I didn't ovulate is very clear to me because of all the things that have been going on in my life. I've shared before here on the podcast that my body is sluggish to ovulate, especially when there's a lot of stress and a lot of things going on. And there was definitely like things going on this last cycle that my body was like, nope. And my body was gearing up to ovulate, and then something happened. And then my body was like, nope, we're not going to be doing that. And so it was harder to know. But typically, you'll know when you ovulate when you're charting your cycle because your basal body temperature will rise. There are other ways to chart other than basal body temperature. Body temperature is just what I like to use. You can also chart your cervical mucus. There are different ways of charting, and we won't go into all of those ways here in this one episode. There's a lot of information, and I find it all really fascinating. But another benefit to knowing where you are in your cycle and paying close attention to that is that you'll know when your bleed is going to be. So typically, I ovulate, my temperature rises, 14 days later, my bleed is there. And so if I know when my temperature rose specifically, not just when the textbook tells me that I ovulated, because for me, I haven't ovulated yet during that time. I have longer cycles. Typically, I don't have a typical cycle. It goes 36 days, 37 days, 32 days. So in order for me to know when my bleed is going to arrive, I have to know when I ovulated. And that's the case for a lot of women. And so it's really, really helpful. On that day 14, I'm like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to be bleeding. And I'm going to need to put some things in place to support myself for that time. Super helpful. Number 3, the color, the amount, and the texture of your bleed can indicate things regarding your overall health, your biological and your emotional stress levels, which, by the way, are one and the same. Okay? Like, our body knows. I feel like my body knows faster than my mind can fully grasp all the time. Something will happen. It will stress me out, but I'll talk myself out of it. I'll be like, no, I'm not stressed. I'm handling this perfectly fine. But then my menstrual cycle is like, we're going to get a little extra symptomatic. And I do find that for me personally, I do bleed a little bit heavier when I'm going through periods of grief and heavy emotions. Really high stress will cause me to bleed heavier than I typically would. So, something to keep in mind and pay attention to. And that way you can bring that up if you're having appointments with a doctor, an OBGYN, or a naturopath or fertility awareness coach, or anyone that you're seeing and consulting about your cycles. You'll have that information to tell them, oh, this bleed was heavier than usual, and you'll know what your usual is. That brings us into number 4. You'll know when something's different. You'll know when something is new. It doesn't, kind of go by the wayside. Whenever I'm keeping a chart, if I know something is different, then I'll just put it right there in the little notes section of the chart, which I have an app that I recommend, but you have to stay to the end. I'm going to go into things that I use that help me chart my cycle. And I'll tell you everything that I use, because free resources on the internet. This is what we're doing here. I feel like we're just having our little sleepover, and I'm telling you the things that I use because I love you and I want other people to have this information because it's helped me so much. And other people sharing information like this, the internet big sisters, the YouTube big sisters that I've watched, over the years that have, helped to guide me along my way. I've just gotten so much benefit from that. And yeah, it makes me want to share. So yeah, you'll know when something's different. You'll also know when something is really working for you. So if you're trying a new supplement, if you're trying a new vitamin, if you're trying a new exercise routine, um, anything like that, it's gonna let you know if it has benefits in your cycle, like less symptoms, less cramping, less mood swings, whatever you're experiencing. If it starts to become milder and more easy to manage, then you'll know, like, oh, this is working for me. I see it in my chart. My ovulation was really strong, and my temperature went right up, and they stayed consistent throughout my luteal phase. Um, and yeah, you'll know. And it also, this is not on my list, but tracking basal body temperature also kind of gives you an indicator into your metabolic health as well. Just to know where your usual temps sit at is, it can be important, because if you're starting to get a little bit sick, then it might go up a little bit and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't ovulate yet. Ooh, I wonder if I'm gonna get a little sick. Yeah, it can be really interesting to know. Number 5, you won't feel crazy when your hormones shift. So if you know, I've just ovulated and now I'm going into my luteal phase, you can expect to feel a bit different. You can expect to have to modify your routine a little bit. And I do hear a lot of people on the internet saying, like, you really shouldn't have, such severe mood swings during your luteal phase. You really shouldn't have this cramping or irritability and this and that. And in a perfect world, I'm sure that we would not have that. But that's not where we're living, baby. Okay? Like, it's just not the case for most of us. Even me, I chart my cycle because it isn't perfectly regular, and it has given me, a lot of issues in the past: severe cramping, heavy bleeding. I've had a lot of symptoms of endometriosis. I haven't had the laparoscopic surgery done to find out whether it's actually there, but I've talked with multiple OBGYNs and they're like, yeah, it's kind of seeming like endometriosis. So um, these things happen, and more and more women are experiencing these things, or they're just now starting to actually talk about it, talk about experiencing it. I don't know which, maybe both, a little of both. But hey, things happen. Your mood's gonna shift. And so I feel like it just helps me so much to know that, okay, I'm gonna start feeling a little bit different. I'm gonna start wanting to slow down a bit. My nature is gonna be a little bit less tolerant of things, we will say. All right? So it doesn't just come out of the blue and make me feel like, oh, I'm crazy, or I don't know where this is coming from. Who am I? It's not like that. And then you can sort of tell the people around you where you're at, because you know where you're at and how it's gonna be looking. Okay? I'm just being real with you. All right. Things that I use, which, by the way, before I get into this, thank you so much for staying to the end of this episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and hit subscribe, because I want to share more free resources with you guys and just be able to talk about these things, open up these conversations, and hear what you have to say in the comments, what you're experiencing, any questions that you have. I'm probably not going to be able to answer all of them, but we can at least commiserate. We can lift each other up. And I would love to have other people on this podcast as well, talking about our stories. I love to tell a good story, especially to other women, about womanhood. Earlier on the podcast, I told the story of my first bleed. It's called menarche, or the first period, as most of us would call it. But yeah, I'd love to hear other women's stories on that. I think it's so fascinating. And yeah, I just love to have these conversations with y'all. So thanks for being here, and give this video a like if you enjoyed it, or this podcast if you're on Spotify. I don't think you can like on Spotify. Maybe I'm wrong though. Anyways, here are some things that I use. I use a basal body temperature thermometer from Target. I love a good Target, okay? They just have, I don't know. It's just, to me, it's one of those stores, and I'm like, I know this is a big box store, but I just love what they got. I'm liking what you're putting down, all right? Anyways, but I got that thermometer from Target for $10, and I've been rocking with the same one. Actually, I think I lost one of them and I had to buy another one. But I'm rocking with the same one I've had for a good couple of years at least. And it's still kicking. The only difference between actually, there are two main differences between a basal body temperature thermometer and your regular old fever thermometer. One reason is that it has 2 decimals on the other side. So it'll say, instead of saying 98.6, it'll say 98.60. So it'll give you the hundredth, goes down to the hundredth. So it just gives you a little bit more of a precise reading in that way. And also, it takes its precious time. It takes a minute or two rather than just taking like 10 to 30 seconds, like the regular fever thermometers do. And that just gives you a little bit more of a reading. And we can do another episode on how exactly I personally chart my cycle. It's not really going to be a how to chart your cycle because I'm not a fertility awareness certified practitioner. Okay, that's not me, but I can let you know how I've been doing it because I've been doing it for about 5 or 6 years now, and it works for me. So yeah, that's the thermometer that I use. It's purple and white at Target, and you can just get it. I think it's near, I don't know if it's near family planning or if it's near the first aid section. It's in one of those two. Cheers. I hope you got your yummy beverage as well. Okay. Here's the app that I use. This is how I've been charting my cycle for as long as I've been charting my cycle. I use the Read Your Body app. It is a paid app. I think it is $20 per year. So it's not an expensive paid app in my opinion. And the value that I get from it is just so vast. It has everything, and you can customize it as well to how you personally like to chart your cycle and what symptoms you like to track. It's just super easy. It's super like fun to use. To me, it's fun. I have fun doing this kind of stuff. I geek out on it. But yeah, that's the app that I use. I'll put a link to it down below. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, but I just want to share the good news, okay, with you. There's an easy app you can use. Get your basal body temperature thermometer from Target, and then you go get this app and you can chart away. I'm not gatekeeping nothing. And then I also do chart my cervical mucus from time to time. Actually, I heard someone call it cervical fluid the other day, and I like that better because it's not like the snot from your nose, all right? It's not. It's not that. It's fluid, all right? So that, I mean, is it really better? We'll call it her sacred waters. Is that better? But yeah, I do chart that as well. Just charting it for the consistency, and that can kind of let me know when my fertile window is opening. Because the thing about using the basal body temperature charting is that it doesn't tell you necessarily when you're going to ovulate. Your temperatures will be kind of low. They'll kind of go like this, and they'll be a little low. Mine is usually between like 97.1 and 93. 97.3, not 93. I'm not hypothermic, okay? But usually for that first 2 to 3 weeks of my cycle, and then after I ovulate, it goes up to either 97.9 or like 98 plus. So I'll see that kind of rockets up after I ovulate. So it doesn't tell you before. That's the thing, it doesn't tell you before. So that's when tracking my cervical fluid comes in handy. It's when I want to know, when am I ovulating? Is it coming up? Which you can kind of gauge based on when you typically do. Like once you have a couple charts in tow, you can be like, oh, this is my 5 days. That was 5 days before my temperature went up. But since my cycles vary in length, and most women's cycles vary in length, that 5 days is going to start looking more like 15 days. And then that's half your cycle that you're like, could I get pregnant? You know, so that's when tracking the cervical fluid comes in handy. It will start to look like egg whites when you're roughly, not exactly. You'll know once you start paying attention to your own body what your cervical fluid looks like during your fertile window, during that time in your cycle, which is just so fascinating. I just think it's so fascinating. Anyways, those are my 5 reasons. Take it or leave it. It's helped me so much with my life, honestly. My whole life, and that's not being dramatic, because it affects every aspect of my life. What I'm able to do on a daily basis, what I feel like doing, helps me plan my schedule and social activities. And yeah, it's been a long time since I've been caught without a pad handy. And that is a blessing. All right. I love you, sisters. Always great to hang out and chat. Thanks for indulging me on all this. And if you have anything that you want to add or share in the comments, I'd love to hear it. Thank you. Mwah.